It's funny how going live, there's always a delay. Sometimes I see other people saying, "Are we live? Are we live?" And they are live, and people are seeing them. So I guess I'm doing the same thing now. Okay. All right. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining the Quiet Confidence Cafe, episode 3. Actually, I've been doing this for a while. I've been doing this for 6 years, but it was a different, I guess, execution. It used to be in person in downtown Vancouver. And every month I invite a guest speaker to come and join and talk about something related to quiet confidence. And usually I invite people that I really resonate with, I met, I liked, and we had great deep chats. And I thought the community will benefit them coming here. So that's how it started. And just this summer, I moved it into online and I tweaked the name a bit. That's all. So thank you for coming. I'm excited to be here on a Monday morning, Thanksgiving, actually, in Canada. So happy Thanksgiving to anyone that's celebrating this special day. All right, so that's about me. That's about Quiet Confidence Cafe. About me, my name is Ferris. I'm a quiet confidence coach and a conscious business coach. So for the first one, I coach introverts to embrace who they are and leverage their natural strength. And the second part of my work is working with wellness professionals, help them and coach them through their business, because I noticed there's many wellness professionals don't have business background, and that's a struggle. I have a business background because before becoming a coach and a counselor, I used to be in the corporate world doing marketing for 15 years. All right, Ben. So our guest speaker today is Ben Fizell. Actually, Ben and I met Ben probably, I would say 5 years ago or 4 years ago. I was speaking at Entrepreneurs in Health and Fitness, or Wellness, and Entrepreneurs in Health and Wellness, I think. Now it used to be run by Nadia, now it's by Ariana. It's a great community. I was talking about how to do actually business as a solopreneur using your quiet confidence. And I think that's my own assumption, Ben, that you connected with me because maybe I think I mentioned in my talk, I spoke about meditation and mindfulness. And I can tell while I was speaking, that really got you interested. Oh, meditation, because you love it. So then we spoke afterwards, we became good friends. And then I invited him to speak at the Quiet Leadership meetup in Vancouver. So this is the second time actually you come on here. So I'm excited. And the reason why you're here again, because you're awesome. And in the summer, we had a random live. We spoke about highly sensitive people. That was exciting too. So Ben is a meditation and mindfulness teacher. He has been doing this kind of work and under the wellness umbrella for 19 years. Wow, Ben, when I saw your bio, I was, wow, 19, that's awesome. And he's the founder of the Peacekeeper Project. Wait, I'm gonna read that because I really love your mission. So it is, your mission actually is to help create a more peaceful and connected world by helping people quiet their busy mind so they can live from the heart. It's beautiful, amazing. Especially there's quiet in that sentence, and I love the word quiet. So yeah, that's a great mission, and I'm happy to hear and see that you're doing that, because as we all know, we need peace and quiet, and we need to live from the heart, and that's why we're talking about this topic, love and connection. So everyone, please grab your coffee or whatever you feel like drinking. I'm having coffee, and let's get started. So hello, Ben.
Hello, Faris.
Thank you.
Great to be here.
Great to be here with you too. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
All right. Usually I like to start with the same question, which is, what's your definition of quiet confidence?
Yeah, quiet confidence. To me, confidence is quiet. Quiet confidence, it's a state of being. I think to me, it's a state where we feel alive. Like we can. It's not like we have to know the answer to everything. But there's a certain confidence, something in the background there that's, we know we can adapt, we can work anything out. There's a certain resilience, adaptability that's part of confidence, but that's, to me, they're qualities that are an expression of something deeper than who we think we are, the problems and the challenges that we face. But confidence is this inner knowing that we can adapt and overcome these challenges. And it's an expression of, this part of us that is not the problems, part of us that is not the challenges. And confidence in that sense, it's quiet. But then I think to take that out, quiet versus loud confidence, when you might see people that might be very overly confident or loud or maybe slightly arrogant or something, there's a bit more of an ego or personality built on top of this inner confidence. And the confidence is, it's like a force of a sense of self on a very deep level. But sometimes we build ego on this because it feels strong, but then other times it just becomes quiet. Like as introverts and sensitive people, we might feel that confidence, but we don't have to talk about it loudly. Even for quiet people that are confident, to me, that the confidence is it's strong, like the strength that shines through, but it's confidence. So that's my take on quiet confidence.
Awesome. I love it. That's very similar to my take on it too. And I see that you have the quiet confidence yourself. And that's what connected me with you. And I feel I always connect with quiet, confident people. And that's not to say that other kinds of confidence, like there's right or wrong. It's just different kinds of confidence. And I resonate with this kind of confidence.
Yeah. And I think too, the sense of confidence in what you are. So if you're an introvert, you're confident in your introvertness. And if you're an extrovert, you're confident in that. It's kind of like, I guess, kind of like water, right? Water is this substance, it's fluid, it moves, but it's confident, like it's unwavering in its waterness. It's not trying to be something else. It is water. So when we're confident, I think it's those natural traits that we have, we become confident, and our confidence shines through those things.
I love it, and that's key. When you said about it's embracing and being confident in who we are, it's not necessarily like an introvert will be quiet, confident, and an extrovert will be another type of confidence. It's believing in your own traits and not being ashamed of it. Because I know there's some introverts, because of society and culture, it's seen maybe for some people as a weakness. So some people are not confident or comfortable in their own skin being an introvert, and then they might put a mask on to be extroverted to fit in. So in that case, those people, and probably I was one of them in the past, that wasn't, it's not confidence. So confidence is, like you said, like understanding yourself, knowing who you are, embracing it, and be confident of yourself from inner to outer, not from outer to inner.
Yeah, and I think that's also really important too, that since sometimes we try to be something else, right? Because maybe, like as an introvert, you didn't understand how that fit into the world that seemed like an extroverted place. So we try to be something else, and it could be in different fields, an extrovert, introvert, but just that sense of coming back to those natural traits. And sometimes it takes a bit of, working on ourselves to deconstruct the beliefs that we have that are not who we are. They're just a belief we picked up somewhere along the way.
Yeah. That's what I've been doing for the past, I don't know, I'm 42 now. I've been doing this kind of work, like trying to understand all that since I was a young boy, I guess. I started into trying to understand myself since I was 12 years old. So it's a long journey, and I'm still in the process and never completely fully understand it. Anyway, that's a different deep topic. Let's jump into love. So tell me, what's love? What's love got to do with it? No, what's love means to you?
Love. It's such a interesting topic. I mean, to me, love is part of the fabric of creation. It's there. It's always there in the background, and Like when I'm teaching meditation or, mindfulness, it's like stillness. It's always there. It's in the background, but our mind is usually too busy, too active to recognize it and to realize it. And I think love is the same. And so it's always there. And there's one of the really great quotes I like around this is from Rumi. And he says, your task is not to seek for love, but merely seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you've built against it. So to me, that also points to, what I know from experience is that when you start to deconstruct all of those, the beliefs, the attitudes, the thoughts, even what we think love is, you start to deconstruct that and we become quiet. There's a sense of this love. It's like warm. It brings openness. We feel more connected. That naturally happens when we get out of the grasping tendencies of our mind. So love is really that sense when we feel it's part of creation. When we feel it, it's like we feel part of creation. And when we feel that like towards another person, it's like something in us has opened, and that flow of love from the creation or in the background, we become open and it flows between us. And I think, sometimes it's in an intimate relationship, sometimes it's, you see someone do an act of service or something beautiful, walk out into nature, you see flowers growing in the spring, there's different things that can open us up, and for a moment, something opens enough for this flow to come through. And so I think that's what love is, but it's really hard to really, because we can have really like a nice conversation about what is love and we can get inspired. But if we then go out into the world and then we're led by fear, then something's kind of missing. So I think it's important to if we're talking about love, we kind of need to understand fear as well. And I guess we can talk more about that. But something else that I find really important in regards to love, which is another quote that I really love by Thich Nhat Hanh. And the first time I read this a few years ago, something just really clicked in, kind of like love is beyond the mind, but we try to understand it so we can have these conversations. But he said, understanding is love's other name. If you don't understand, you can't love. And to me, something really clicked with that. And it's like, we can talk about love, but then you might have a disagreement with someone, or someone says something you don't like, and in that moment, it creates a disconnection. And if you're not striving to understand, then we shouldn't pretend to be in love or have a loving attitude. But for me, and that's something I've always had this curiosity to understand the mind, consciousness, nature, and other people. And when I'm with other people, it's like, who are you? Like, I want to understand. And it's like, oh, why are you saying that? Like, I don't agree with everything everyone says, but it's like, well, why do you say that? And I think there's something of that line of understanding. It's like curious enough. I think curiosity is it's like an avenue into understanding, to take us into that sense of like, who are you? And to me, the more I try to understand someone, it's like not understand them from my perspective, but understand them for them. And like something just opens in your heart because you're not judging, it's just this understanding. And I think that quote really helps to pass something to understand love through understanding.
I love it. And I feel that's my own assumption that if someone doesn't feel it, it's hard to explain. It needs to be felt. And you said key words, understand, because I feel humans, or not I feel, it's a known fact. I mean, humans we want to be seen and heard and understood. So it's interesting how, love is almost like based on what you said, almost a combination of that. You want to hear that person. And of course, listening and understanding them with no judgment. and I guess that's the key. And with empathy, trying to see it from their perspective, it seems simple, but it's so powerful. And sometimes we think that we are really listening and to understand, but maybe not. If we're not conscious of it, we could be listening just for waiting for our turn to answer back. So we're busy thinking of our own thoughts or trying to see it from our own experiences rather than seeing it like be an observer and see it from their perspective. So yeah, I liked what you shared in that call too.
And I think there's two things there that you're sharing there too. Is like there's that sense of when we understand something from their perspective, this capacity for empathy, right? It's like we shift out of our sense of self, but to do that, we have to let go of our sense of self.
Yeah.
So there's a beautiful exercise or muscle or whatever you want to call it that allows us to do that and go, well, okay, I want to understand you, and you put yourself in their perspective, and to be able to do that, to me, just expresses this underlying connection and unity that we have as part of the creation as fellow humans. We can do that, we can experience that because there is this underlying connection. And whether we feel connected or not, we are connected. It's just our mind and our emotions, our reactions that give us that sense of separation. It's like you versus me, which leads to conflict and but that's still there. The connection is still there, whether you feel it or not. Your impact, the things we do, will impact other people, whether we're in a good mood, negative mood, and so I think that's really important. And I think the other thing there that you touched on there is like this capacity to try and understand others. It's like this tapping into love as we engage with people, but I think it's also when we reflect on how good it feels when we feel understood, like to be understood when because we know when someone's not really listening to us, which is what you're saying. It's like they're not quite present with you. But when someone's there and they're really trying to understand you, sometimes they don't have to say a lot. Maybe they're just very present, but listening, or they're asking questions. It's like and you feel that, like to be understood. You can feel something in your heart opening. So it's a two-way street, obviously.
Yeah. Every time you mention love, your body language say you do the expansion, and it's interesting how love is opening up, and fear, which we'll talk. That's maybe the next question is it's contracting, and I think that's how we started talking about this when we met over coffee. We were noticing how there's so much fear around the world at the moment, which we'll come to that also. But maybe let's take it one step at a time. What's your take on fear, and how is it related to love, or what's the connection?
Well, I think it's kind of like polar opposites in a sense. So you've got love and fear. You've got connection, disconnection, opening, closing, expansion, contraction. And then it was only maybe a month ago I was listening to Bruce Lipton talk, and he was talking about how all living organisms, right down to the most single cell, like to the single cell organism all the way to humans, a living organism can't be in a state of growth and protection at the same time. And when I heard him say that, it just made so much sense in the context of love, fear, connection, disconnection. And when I talk about these concepts, I think it's really powerful not to just keep them as a concept in our mind, but to make it tangible, a way that we can take that knowledge and apply it to ourselves to increase our self-awareness and use our superpower of sensitivity to become more sensitive to these things. So bringing that back to love and fear, love is related to growth, fear to protection. And these are qualities that we can feel in ourselves, and all that sense of expansiveness or contraction. And, there's so many things in the world that create a sense of fear or a sense of protection. Just being stressed or anxious or worrying about what's happening in the world. traumas we've had in the past, or but it's not about so much judging them, but I guess for the context here is about being able to recognize the sense of how that feels in our body, because that gets us to take it out of just a mental concept into something we can tangibly use to navigate this love and fear landscape of love and fear. Right? And it is kind of like that, like growth and protection. You can't really be in love and fear at the same time. So to be able to tangibilize that sense of fear as that sense of contraction, like there's a grasping, we feel protected. And if we're honestly reflect on ourselves when we're in different moods, like using that sense of, do I feel protected, or do I feel like I'm in a state of growth? Think of growth that might not be like you're growing and learning something new, but you have that capacity, like that sense of like springtime, I guess.
Yeah.
And nature, like love feels that expansive growth, and it makes us feel alive, open, warm, free. And it brings that sense of connection. We feel really connected to other people. It's more the sense of us versus, when fear is there, in that sense of protection, there's that contraction, and it creates that sense of disconnection. Like I mentioned before, it creates a sense of you versus me. So the natural, where that naturally goes is conflict. You versus me. That's the natural state of separation. So it's important to understand, if we want to understand love, I think we need to understand fear. And so just being able to feel that effect in our body, I think is so important to help us, like as I said, navigate love and fear. And again, not judging one way or the other. It's just like when we have these concepts that we can apply to ourselves, it means we become more, use our sensitivity to feel more, but in a very grounded way. You're just allowing yourself to feel, okay, so I'm stressed. Yes, I can feel that sense of contraction, and you can just be present with that feeling. And then we get to learn more. And the thing is, when we become more present to those emotions or those uncomfortable feelings, just the capacity to be present with them, it changes our relationship to them. And and that's one of the ways we can start to build a different relationship to love and fear.
I love that when you said, fear and love and growth can be, that can't happen at the same time. And you mentioned spring, and that's what happens with like plants, like you said, if you want to use that comparison. If it's safer for the plants to stay in their, I don't know what you call it, whatever it is, but that it won't grow. And when it blooms, it grows, but now it's more vulnerable. But that's how you grow. You're open to that side. And same with fear. It's not about it's sitting with it. It's not about it. It's not like fear is a bad thing. To sit with it and all emotions. I noticed lately. I sound like a very old guy, but I mean, it seems lately, people talk about being happy and positive and in love and all that, like it's the only thing, and to suppress the other emotions, which all emotions are important and we learn from them. And sometimes we do it subconsciously when we feel emotions that we don't enjoy, like sadness or other stuff, and then we distract ourselves with either food or TV or even work or anything that removes us from sitting with it. So like you said, it's important to sit with it and understand it, and not to be feared of fear itself, and to acknowledge fear is fine. It's not like you don't. We all need to, like, we all have fear. It's a natural thing. The importance is to feel it, and if you want to proceed with something, do it anyway and feel the fear and keep going. It's not fear the fear and then contract.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we don't even, like, there's the experience of fear and we don't even really know what we're afraid of. Sometimes it's the fear of the unknown, or like our emotions. It's like we don't like feeling uncomfortable, right? So as soon as an uncomfortable emotion might come up, we already start suppressing it. And I think, like you mentioned before, like people talk about happiness and joy as an important thing, and they forget about this stuff. But if we want to talk about coming back to sensitivity as a superpower, and I really define that as this ability to feel and perceive like energy or information, and emotions are essentially just different forms of energy. But if we don't allow us to feel a certain range of emotions, certain energy, then we're disconnecting from our capacity to feel, our sensitivity. But you can't disconnect it there and not have it disconnect on the level of joy and happiness. So our capacity to feel like joy and happiness, like, and love in the fullest sense, is related to how deeply we can feel our stress, our anxiety, our angers, and those emotions. So our capacity to be sensitive to happiness is also related to our capacity to feel anger or sadness, grief. Yeah, but consciously, and that's the key. To feel it consciously is different to it being there in the background, and we just we don't let ourselves go there.
Exactly. And it's I feel it's also, I believe, an upbringing. Like in my case, for example, as a child growing up, from the people around me and society and culture and maybe parents, and then later college and then work, there I was getting the messages like it's a weakness to acknowledge other emotions or fear, or you want to show you're strong, maybe especially as a man, and especially maybe from the Middle East, you need to be strong all the time, 24 hours, and not vulnerable. So yeah, for many years, of course, I suppressed other emotions until I realized there's a variety of emotions, and they're not good or bad. It is what it is, and then that's when I started opening up. So for many people, it's the same thing. It just they grew up like that, not knowing there's a other side, or they didn't experiment with listening to themselves and not fear and all that stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's true. I think things might be changing a bit more now, but I don't think we really had people that taught those things. There were not enough people that really understood it, and I guess here again is the sense of the power of understanding and love. It's like the power to understand ourselves, like the capacity to understand our emotions and what makes us tick and why we don't like this or why we're afraid of that. Like just that curiosity to understand ourselves is again engaging that sense of love. And if you want to talk about self-love, there's another way in there. And of course, understanding ourself, our emotions, our emotional landscapes is when we understand that, we already understand how other people work. It's like the range of human emotions is not that great. So we're all in this environment of humanity that we live in, and we all experience the same things at varying levels, a bit more of this, a bit more of that one. So again, in that understanding of ourself, our emotions, it comes back to understanding that connection we all have, because we're all swimming in the same sea of emotions.
Yeah.
Just some of us have a greater capacity to hold a sense of some kind of integrity in the center. And I think that's what comes with doing the work on ourselves. We discover something inside that's, like I was talking about the water, there's something unwavering in the water just being water. There's something that we discover inside that it's still, there's that sense of love, and it's there. And that becomes a resting place that we can navigate the world, we can be in the world. It's like the chaos, whatever is happening in the world happens, but there is a place to see it from, as opposed to getting caught in the emotions and the fears that pull us outwards into all of this distraction. So and it really changes the way we see the world and respond.
Yeah, and it's they make it hard, like with all these distractions. And I don't know if you saw what is it called, social something on Netflix. With social
Haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, it's nothing new, but it's just seeing it again. It's yeah, how much we're distracted, and if we're not paying attention, we keep getting distracted, and which takes us away from understanding ourselves. And like you said, like with anything, it starts with self-understanding. And you mentioned self-love. In the past, when I used to talk about self-love, some people might think it's a selfish thing or ego thing, but it's the way I see it, it's not, because how can you love others if you don't love yourself? But not in an egoic way. It's to love ourselves, I guess, to accept ourselves and accept our weaknesses and traits and all that, and be okay with who we are. um, I don't know why I went into that tangent, but yeah, like it starts with self-love and then others, and because then we can project it on other people. If we are not happy with ourselves, we can create conflict, attack people,
Mhm.
not necessarily physically, but with words, with kids. So that's why, like now we have a 2.5, 2.5 years old boy, and I'm very conscious not to tell him not to do things. To put fear in him, like simple stuff, like maybe jumping on the couch. Sometimes I want to say, "Oh, be careful," but then I catch myself like that's how it starts. We keep putting these things: "Be careful of this, be careful of that. Don't walk there, don't do this." And then by the time they're 25, they're scared of everything. So
Mhm.
it starts there. So that's why I'm very conscious, me and my wife, how bringing our son in that sense.
Mhm.
All right, I want to shift gears and ask you, how can we, like for listeners and everyone, how can we bring more love to our day-to-day lives, and especially these days? I personally sense, and there's a lot of fear happening, and there's a lot of trauma, injustice happening in the world, and there's the COVID. So, how can someone bring more love, and especially in those times we're living in now, in your opinion?
Yeah. Um, yeah, and I think this is so important at the moment, like because there is so much fear in the world, and fear it has that, like I was talking before, this sense of bring this you versus me separation
Mm,
uh, feeling into each one of us. And now is really a time when we need to bring more love, connection into the world, more heart. And you're right, there's a lot happening in the world, and you know, there's discrimination, there's corruption, there's a lot of things going on in the world, and a lot of people have very opposing beliefs. And I think, to me, I think there's some underlying fundamental things here, and we sometimes, again, this is my thoughts on the matter, is like we get caught up on wanting to regulate this or regulate that, or you're not allowed to say this or you're not allowed to say that, and we
mm,
think that's going to fix something, but this is just fixing a symptom, right? The reason, like for me, when I see an act of violence, that's I think for most people, you see that something hurts, right? But even like an act of discrimination, whether it's racial, whether it's a man putting down a woman, maybe it's an adult talking down to a child. There's so many ways we can discriminate, but anytime that I witness that, something kind of hurts
mm,
inside, and I think that all of us, if we pay attention, we can feel this. And the reason I think that's true is because there are certain things that you can only do in a state of disconnection,
mm,
right? When you're disconnected from your heart, you can do that. You can be corrupted. You can have your own interests over a group of people. You can discriminate because you don't feel that sense of connectedness to them. So this underlying issue is connection or heart.
mm, mm,
When we're more connected to our heart in the world, you don't need to be told how to treat another person. You don't need to be told what to do. Like there is this inherent sense of connectedness because we feel connected to each other. Like when we feel that, you act differently.
mm,
If you think about the people you're consciously more close to, family, friends, as when you think about them, there's a sense of care because you feel that sense of connection. But when we move beyond the sense of, just the people we know to, our fellow humans, to animals, to the planet, when we feel that sense of connection, there is care. right? We don't have to be told not to poison the earth. There are many great resources and growing knowledge for regenerative agriculture and things like that to grow up the earth and speak to humans. So I think we need to understand this first. All the things we're trying to do on top is like trying to fix a symptom. And I'm not saying we shouldn't be doing some of those things, but we have to keep in mind the big picture. Context is so important that when we come back into our heart, and I think most people at some point in their life, they've felt more open, more connected, and you act in a very different place. So we need to come back to that. And, practically in the world at the moment, so coming back to the sense of love and fear, like grasping or expansion, growth and protection. It's like, start to pay attention, like, to how that feels in your body, like all the things that you see on social media. You might read one post that, they're saying this, and you go, oh yes, you get behind that, and then someone says something different, and then you want to attack them. It's like, well, just let's, like, what is actually happening in your body? Like, are you in a sense of growth, or are you trying to protect something? Like, and I think we need to be radically honest with ourselves and take this radical responsibility for how we react in the world. Because if we don't take responsibility for our actions, because we can always justify our actions. We can do horrible things. We can shame others. We can do whatever, and we can feel justified, but that doesn't make it right. And if we're completely honest with ourselves, and it can be hard to be honest with ourselves, we can say, well, no, I did not come from the heart. There was no heart in that. And like, if we want to create a world that has more peace, connection, this sense of love flowing through the world, then each one of us need to take some responsibility to bring that flow of love into the world. And I think it comes back to whatever's happening in the world, whether you like what someone's saying or not. It's like, recognize how you feel. Are you in protection or growth, love or fear? And if you're in that protected, fear, you versus me sense of self, try curiosity and understanding. Instead of attacking, try to understand, well, why are they saying that? Why do they feel that way? Right? Like, allow that. And I think that if we can allow a greater understanding, then it opens a door, like, firstly, for them to be understood, and for us to understand. Like, understanding is like, it's almost like this way of engaging love into the world. And we have to do this. And this is why it's so important to have open conversations. Don't just, and I see this so much, it's like somebody says something that you don't like, and so you shame them. You attack the person, put them down, instead of talking about the thing that they said. And this happens on so many levels. It happens like politically, like in mainstream media, all across the board, all the way down to individual. It's the same principles unfolding. And I think that we see these things out there, but we need to reflect, because we often do the same thing ourselves. Right? When we see somebody attacking or shaming someone else, it's like, well, reflect on when you've done it. It's natural, I think, when you feel attacked, whether they're attacking you or not, they might just be speaking truthfully to you. You might attack them back instead of saying, okay, well, they're saying this, and have that open conversation. And so coming back to engaging a sense of curiosity, understanding, I think it's going to really help us consciously bring more love into the world. And that sense of feeling it in our body, because we don't want it to be a mental concept. It's feeling when our body is in that state of protection. And maybe you're watching too much social media or comparing yourself or judging yourself, and notice how that feels. And maybe don't do that. And find the things that bring more love. Or maybe it's the same situations, but changing the mind from, attacking or justifying your own ideas to understanding them. And it's not about right or wrong necessarily. We don't want to judge. It's about truth and understanding and connection. although we don't have to judge, we do have to understand the consequences of the choices we make, the states of mind that we go into. At some level, we have to choose. Because if we want a more connected and peaceful world, we have to choose that, and we have to make the effort.
Thank you. This is great. And I wanted to say, when you were talking about this, I remembered a comic strip I saw a few days ago, which makes so much sense. You see a picture of two people, or not, maybe two countries or whatever, people fighting in conflict or war. And I think they're saying, this land is mine and this is yours, and they're fighting about it. And then you see they zoom out, and then you see planet Earth from far with other planets. And it's funny that two people are saying this, and it's all one, and we're all one, and it's just crazy, the division and how we think it's us versus them. And like you said, everything is interconnected. Whether we see it or not, it is, from small insects to us, and everything is connected. And the more, like, it took me a while for me to grasp that too, years ago, because I didn't understand how would I be connected with someone. At that time, I was using example in my head. Let's say Hitler. How am I connected with him? I'm not. He's like a bad person. I'm not. So, but it's not about that. In overall, if we remove all these layers, we're all one and connected. But of course, with different beliefs and traumas, people go different directions. But in essence, we all are one. I feel today's session was very philosophical.
Yeah, but I think also, like, even the horrendous things that people do, like groups of people against another group, like, there is a sense of connection because what they do impacts all of us. So on some level, we are all connected, and where we go together, I mean, we're going somewhere together, but more of us need to choose that consciously, from heart, from love. Otherwise, we can't basically, if we're not going to make the effort to choose more heart and connection, we can't complain if somebody else isn't doing it. If somebody else is doing something horrific, or even just doing something that lacks heart, then we can't complain if we can't do that ourselves.
Definitely.
Responsibility.
It all starts with self-love, self-awareness, self-leadership, self-responsibility. Definitely. All right. My last question to you, any resources you recommend on this topic to go deeper, understand love?
Most of the resources I recommend are inner resources. So it's more like taking the time to meditate, connect to the stillness inside. I'm sure there are books and things like that out there that you can read on the topic, but for me, it's really about taking the time to go inside, connect to your heart. Like, I have meditations and courses on my website. People can check out there. Some are free, some are paid. Some are free, some are paid. But it's really about the resources are inside. They're all in here. We just have to stop being distracted and take the time. And it doesn't take much just to start that process of going inwards, and you'll find so much more than you realize.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why, like, lately, sometimes I fall into that trap where I want to read the next book and the next book, and that's fine, and I still do it. But many times I remind myself, go within and just quiet the mind, meditate, and there's so many probably answers and insights inside. So I've been doing that. So my maybe suggestions for people that haven't explored meditation, I find, and when I suggest to other clients of mine that are not into meditation, to start with these apps. They're awesome because they're guided. It's a good entry point. I find Insight Timer amazing, and if you do check out Ben's meditation there. And before Insight Timer, I used to use Calm app. Is amazing too. and before that, Headspace. I feel Headspace is for beginners. It's because it explains it from a scientific point of view. Because many people, from my experience, when you mention meditation, they think it's more spiritual or religious related, and meditation, from my context, it's not that. It could be. So yeah, there's different ways, different guided meditations, depend on what you enjoy. So maybe that's a good start. Awesome, man. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that with meditation, it's not religious. It's really just about letting go of all of the thoughts, ideas you think you have, a false sense of self, and just turning inwards and discovering the truth of who you are. And coming back to that quote that I said at the beginning from Rumi, it's like your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within you that you've got against it. So meditation is one of the paths that take us in there. It's like to move into silence, we have to move past all of those barriers of belief systems and traumas and ideas that we have cultivated over a lifetime to move in. So it's really just about truth, really.
Thank you.
That's how I would talk about meditation.
Coming from you, of course. You're the teacher, and I really enjoyed your meditations. I've been to Ben's meditations in person, and they're amazing. Speaking of that, how can people find you and learn more about you?
Yeah, my website is peacekeeperproject.com. Got quite a few resources on there. I've got some, you can link to some YouTube videos I have there, courses, I've got a blog. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram, Peacekeeper Project. Yeah, those would be the ways to connect with me. And I do run free live meditations. I've just started them back up again, so Wednesday mornings. So at the moment, they're Wednesday mornings, 7 a.m. Pacific time. So you can join in from anywhere in the world, and these are really opportunities to connect in stillness with others around the world. So you can register and find that on peacekeeperproject.com.
Those meditations, free meditations you do online that reaches everywhere in the world is amazing, because I've been to those, and it's interesting to see people from different parts of the world, Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Canada, all there. We all there meditating at the same time. It's so powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's really something powerful about group meditations, people sitting in stillness together. It's like an amplifying effect for everyone.
Yeah, cool. Thank you, Ben, so much for coming here. I really enjoyed our chat, and I love hearing your perspective on things. It was very beneficial to me. I hope it was beneficial to the people here, or the people that are going to watch the replay.
Yeah, thank you, Faris. Yeah, thank you for having me on here. It's always fun chatting with you.
Awesome, my pleasure. Everyone, thank you for being here. And if you like these kind of conversations, please visit my website. It's my name, fariskhalifa.com. And there's Quiet Confidence Cafe tab, and there where I announce about the upcoming guests and dates. And you can subscribe as well, so you can receive notifications. I hope to see you on the next coffee chat or tea chat, whatever you want to drink. And until then, enjoy your day, and happy Thanksgiving to the Canadians here. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.